Motherfuckers, after 10 games, the match between Bashir Lagraf and Vladislav Artemiev is still tied, 5-5. So the only way to break the tie is Armageddon. The white player has 4 minutes and the black player has 2 minutes and 40 seconds. But the white player needs to win to advance to the next round. If the game ends in a draw, Artemiev advances to the next round. So let's analyze the game. And they have 2 seconds per move of increment. Okay, Maxim is again open with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Again, he chose for the Spanish variation. In the Blitz, we saw that in one game he played Spanish and in the other Italian, but he returned to the Spanish. a6, bishop a4, knight f6, sword castle, bishop b7, and again he takes on c6 like 3 games ago. He takes c6, and in the other game he played rook e1, followed by d4, and trying to play with the kingside pawn majority advantage. And d3 here was another normal option to king to c4 with the knight. But in this game, he selected the move knight c3. The idea is play d4 in the next move. And like I told in the other video, here, white cannot take on e4, on e5, sorry, because the e4 pawn is hanging. So what white is going to defend the e4 pawn, and now the e5 pawn is under attack. Here, the best way to put problems with black was the move bishop g4. Because in other lines with d3 or with rook e1, bishop e4 defending e5 have less strength because the b2 knight can came to d2, for example, in a line like maybe d3, sword castle, and now the knight can came to d2 to defend the knight. And later after some h3, bishop h5, and the bishop is going to be bad place on h5. But here with the knight on c3, the move bishop g4 have more power. Instead of that, Artemiev played knight d7 like in the other game, trying to reach a more or less similar position, and Maxim made the plan of d4. Now let's see that we have yes, we have more space in the center and a pawn majority in the king side. And the black pawn majority in the queen side is less effective because the pawns are double. What's the black advantage? The bishop pair. I explained a little bit more this position in the other video where they play the same opening. But okay, queen d4, but the position is more or less equal because okay, white have more space, more development, and a king side majority, but black have the bishop pair and a solid position, and this is going to be enough to equal the game. So castle, bishop f4, putting pressure into c7, knight c5, queen e3, knight e6, attacking the bishop, rook e1, queen e6. Now he came back with the bishop. Not only to don't trade the bishop, but the huge problem of black position is going to be the development, that the c8 bishop is undeveloped and the c8 bishop have problems to be developed and the a rook. So that's not it's not a problem to trade the knight for the bishop. The huge problem is that the e6 knight is closing the c8, the diagonal of the black bishop. So for that reason, he should keep pieces with bishop g3. When you have more space advantage, you should keep pieces over the board. Bishop c5 attacking the queen, queen d2, and now f6. I like this move. You're not going to have problems in the light square because your opponent have no light square bishop and you have a light square bishop. So f6 used to be a bad move, but in this type of position there are no problems because, like I told you, your opponent have no light square bishop to use the light square bishops. The light square. Sorry, 92, a5, important in this pawn structure. With black, you cannot develop the pieces, but what you can do, just try to take a space with the a pawn. You have a pawn majority on the queen side, of course. It's going to be so difficult for you to create a pass pawn in the queen side, but take all the space that you can take with this pawn are going to be useful. And at the same time, you are waiting because white have no clear ways to put you in trouble because okay, black cannot still developing his pieces, but black position is so solid. So a5 good move, a3, and now Artemiev plays queen e7, looks a little bit strange. I think that queen f7 was better. Looks like the queen is stronger on f7. The idea of have the queen on f7 first, you are controlling the long diagonal of a2, a2, a8, and the other thing is that you have the f8, a3 diagonal to came back with the bishop to f8 in some lines. But we're going to see that many moves later, Artemiev finally goes to f7 with the queen. Queen e7, now queen c3, bishop b6, queen c4. That's the idea. And again, the better way was just defend with queen f7. And here black is completely fine. Now black have no problems. That's what I really like the move bishop b6 because now you are giving the c5 square to your knight, and after just place the queen wood on f7, you are going to play the knight c5, and now black have zero troubles. Black have the bishop pair, and I really like black position. Okay, queen c5 is a bad move because the piece who goes on c5 is the knight, not the queen. So you want the knight to go to c5 and the queen on f7. Queen e2, very good move of Bachelor. Like I told you, have more special advantage. You shouldn't trade queens, especially when your opponent have the bishop pair. You shouldn't trade queens because the bishop pairs always are better, or not always, but the majority of times are better when there are no queens over the board, and the queens helps more the knights. So finally, Artemiev understand that his queen should go to f7 and the knight to c5. So he played queen e7 and queen f7. Very good idea. Knight f5. And here comes the first important mistake of Artemiev. I think that this is the mistake who makes him lose the game. Because after that move, now the things are so complicated. But he have less time in the clock, so the position that they reach is so difficult to hold with less time in the clock. He played knight g5. The problem of this move is that you lose the bishop pair. And in the other game that they played in the same structure, he made more or less the same. He give they have there's a similar position where they have more advantage and more special advantage, sorry, but black have troubles to develop the pieces, but black have the bishop pair, which is his advantage. And in that game, Artemiev lost the bishop pair, and he doesn't lose the game, but he could lose the game because he had a losing position. And in this game, he made the same. His only advantage is the bishop pair, so he should just try to keep that with rook e8 now or h6 or a4, and we have no clear ways to make progress. The problem of knight g5 is that just after knight e7 and trade queens and take the bishop. Now we have the bishop pair, and yes, white is better because he have a better pawn extractor, a strong pawn on e4 who is giving him space. And it's just that the white have a better pawn extractor, so white is better. It's not a decisive advantage, but it's more pleasant to play for white thanks to the pawn extractor. Okay, here rook e1 or e4 are better moves according to the machine, but I think that knight d2 was fine. Rook here, rook e1, rook d8, king f1, just improving a little bit, king g8, f3, and now bad move of Artemiev, rook d7. The problem of rook d7 is that you allowed knight c4. Here was stronger to play knight d6, stopping knight c4. That's the best defensive move. Because after rook d7, knight c4, now black should came to e7, and now it's so annoying for black because the open file is the d file. Why you want the rooks on the e file? The e file is completely closed, so and you are not going to take on e4, of course, because the pawn is on f3 defending. So now I have the open file of the position. Machine plays a4, 5 move, just fixing the pawn on a5 and in dark square color. Knight takes and a4 was fine, or just b3, but I like a4, bishop c5. Here, bishop f4 was good. Trade this bishop and play with knights and rooks. But okay, c3 keeping pieces over the board is not bad. Rook a8, rook b3, knight g5. Here, this breakthrough was very good, just trying to open diagonal for the bishop. Takes, and now, very interesting, now we change the diagonal, bishop h4, h6, bishop takes, and now let's see that all the black pawns are in the same color of his bishop, and okay, white sacrifice a pawn, but all the black pawns are double or isolate or or both things or in the same color of the bishop, so black pawn extractor is completely horrible. Now this could be an interesting idea. Okay, Maxim plays normal with rook d1, king f7, knight d2. This was better. But the problem of Artemiev is just he tried to make just to create something, but he just lost a pawn. The problem of b5 is just he lost a pawn because after take and rook d5 attacking the bishop and attacking the bishop again, you should move the bishop and you're going to lose the pawn. So it's just better to keep solid. Of course, white is better, but okay, it's not so easy for white to win this game. Black is so solid. So, but Artemir have seconds in the clock and him finally blunders a pawn. So after she takes rook d5, knight e6, knight b3, bishop b3, rook b5. Now white just take a pawn, a4, knight e1, very good move. Now the knight is coming to c2, attacking the bishop, controlling the e-pawn. But here, sorry, no, knight d1 is bad because, okay, positionally can look like it's a good move. But black have this idea that I forget with c6, just more, not trapping the rook, but putting some troubles to black, to white. And white just to play rook before, and now bishop c5, win another tempo, and now another tempo, and we seeing that the knight cannot came to the life to c2. And now defend, and now or h5 or d5, and I'm sorry, and if you move the knight, the problem here, the huge problem is that if you one day move the knight, black all the time have the breakthrough with a3. That's why now the knight is bad place on e1 and the position turns into be equal. Because you never came with the knight to c2. The problem of bishop f4 is just the knight c2, finally the knight came to the life and just white is winning thanks to his pawn up. So now the rest was more or less easy to Maxim. When he improved the knight, he improved the rooks, he entered in a f5 hole with the knight, and finally after repeat once and rook d6, threatening everything, Artemiev with seconds in the clock collapsed and he blundered the rook. So congratulations, I'm going to change the score 1 second. Maxim Telegraph 6 points. Artemiev 5. Yes, congratulations to not only to Maxim, to both players because they play yes, an incredible match with 11 games. To classical, for rapid, for blitz, and finally the Armageddon. I analyze the four blitz games and the Armageddon, so I really enjoy this match. So let's see if Bacer Lagraf still advancing rounds in the World Cup. Bye bye, motherfuckers.